Dear friends, English literature, romantic poetry, William Blake, selected poems, short questions with answers. Short questions 11 to 20. Question 11. What kind of person is the nurse in Nurse's Song? Answer. The nurse in Nurse's Song is a kind-hearted, accommodating, and benevolent. When she hears the merry voices and carefree laughter of the children on the green fields and on the hills, her heart is at rest and she is happy. As a nurse, her duty is to look after the children and to take care of them. So, when the sun is set and the dews begin to arise, she advises them to stop playing and to go home till the next morning. But the children are not willing to stop their playing. They tell her that they want to enjoy their playing a little longer. They request her to let them play for some time more. The nurse cannot refuse the request of the children, and she yields to the request of the children. As she is careful, she lets the children play till light fades away completely. Thus, she provides a background of love and security for the children. Question 12. How do the children become successful to convince her to let them play a little longer? Answer. The children are playing and merrymaking on the green fields and on the hills. When the sun is set and dews begin to arise, the nurse advises them to stop playing and to go home until the next morning. But the children are not willing to go home at that time. They try to convince her to let them play a little longer. They tell her that they want to play for some time more because the day is not yet over and they cannot go to sleep so early. Besides, the little birds are still seen flying about in the sky, and the sheep are still grazing on the hillside. As the birds and sheep are still out, children too would like to play a little longer. At the time, the scene is so beautiful and charming to the children that they want to enjoy it more and more. Thus, the children convinced the nurse, and she let them play a little longer. Question 13. What do you know about Holy Thursday? Answer. The Holy Thursday suggests the annual church services held for children from myriad charity schools in England. It is the Ascension Day. That is the day on which Christ rose from the grave and ascended to heaven. This happened on the 40th day after Christ's resurrection. On this day, in many Catholic churches, it is customary to hold services of children. It is to be noted that annual services were held in London each Ascension Day from 1704 to 1877 for the children attending the various London charity schools. In 1782, the charity school's anniversary was transferred to St. Paul's Cathedral because of the increasing number of children at the school. Question 14. What did the children of the charity school do on a Holy Thursday? Answer. On a Holy Thursday, the innocent children of the charity schools were going to St. Paul's Cathedral in lines of two, wearing dresses of red, blue, and green colors. They were going there being led by the church officials who had white wands, rods in their hands to make the children obey them. They moved into the high dome of St. Paul's Cathedral and raised the voice in unison to offer thanks to God for the kindness which they received during the year from their patrons and to celebrate the anniversary of the establishment of the charity schools. Their voices rises up to heaven like a wind and reverberates like harmonious thundering among the seats of heaven. Question 15. What is irony? Answer. Irony in its broadest sense is the recognition of the incongruity or differences between reality and appearance. The word irony is derived from the Greek word irony, meaning dissimilar. It is a figure of speech in which we say one thing when we mean another. By this figure, we say one thing but mean just the opposite. We pretend to praise something or someone but mean to blame or ridicule it or him. It is a strong and effective instrument of attack. According to Professor Bain, irony consists in stating the contrast of what it is meant, there being something in the tone or the manner to show the speaker's real drift. An often quoted example of irony is Brutus is honorable man from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. Antony says this in his adoration over the dead body of Caesar. This appreciation of Brutus really means that Brutus, who killed Caesar, is an ignoble man. Question 16. Comment on the use of irony in Holy Thursday. Answer. There are the undercurrents of irony in the poem Holy Thursday. Irony is found in the description of the children of the charity schools who were going to St. Paul's Cathedral, being led by the church officials who had white wands wrought in their hands. The children wore dresses of red, blue, and green colors, but irony lies in the fact that the children are devoted of their freedom, like the green meadows or colorful flowers of a countryside landscape. The staffs wands of the church officials have religious connotations. Thus, though the colors, whiteness of the wand of the church officials represent purity, irony lies in the fact that these wands are used to hit the children to make them obey the church officials. The irony reaches its peak when the poet calls the patrons of the charity schools wise guardians of the poor, because the poet here implies that the patrons established the charity schools not out of Christian charity but out of self-glorification to advertise their charity. Question 17. How does Introduction to Songs of Innocence different from Introduction to Songs of Experience? Answer. In the Introduction to Songs of Innocence, it is the piper who wants to sing the songs of innocence and happiness to make everyone happy. But in the Introduction to Songs of Experience, the speaker is the bard whose note is that of caution and awe. He appeals to the earth to shake herself free from the fetters of convention and moral laws and religious taboos. For each, the piper and the bard, the past, present, and future are different. For the piper, the past can only be primal unity, the present is innocence, and the immediate future is experience. For the bard, the past is innocence, the present is experience, and the future is higher innocence. The piper's point of view is prevailing lyrics happy. He is conscious of the child's essential divinity and assured of his present protection. But into that joyous context, the elements of experience constantly insinuate themselves, so that the note of sorrow is never completely absent from the piper's pipe. In experience, on the other hand, the bird's voice is solemn and more deeply consonant, for the high-pitched joy of innocence is now only a memory. Both the piper and the bard are singers, but the piper uses mild and gentle numbers, and the bard more terrific tones. Question 18. How is innocence wedded to experience in Introduction to Songs of Experience? Answer. The Introduction to Songs of Experience is exactly different from the Introduction to Songs of Innocence because of the gradual development of the poet's thoughts from the smoother to the harder. Though Introduction to Songs of Experience is the precursor of the following poems of the series, it is not fully devoid of innocence. In the poem, both innocence and experience exist together. At present, the world is still wrapped in darkness, but the stars which pierce the night are a sign of other things to come. The break of day is a black symbol for the new life in which both innocence and experience are transformed, and the soul possesses in its cycle to a complete, energetic, and vigorous life in the creative imagination. True innocence is not that of the Songs of Innocence, but something which has gained knowledge from the ugly lessons of experience and found an expanding strength in the unfettered life of the creative soul. Thus, in the poem, innocence is wedded to experience. Question 19. Write a short note on the symbols used in Introduction to Songs of Experience. Answer. Introduction to Songs of Experience is allegorical. I repeated. Introduction to Songs of Experience is allegorical. In the poem, the bard is associated with loss, the imagination, The bird is introduced in the poem to reveal the word of God to man. The bird gets inspired from God. He calls the fallen soul and pleads with a fallen earth to return to the way of light, that is, the way of God. Here, the earth represents all the people of the earth. The bird goes one stage further and describes the holy word as weeping in the evening dew. The weeping is perhaps due to Christ's agony in the garden at the fall of Adam and Eve. In the poem, the ancient trees are the forest of experience. Soul of man is sunk in dew, which represents materialism. Stars are the followers of Urizen, that represents reason. Until the sun rises, man must suffer Urizen's tyranny. So grass and leaves signify fresh, and morn symbolize regeneration and reawakening. Question 20. Describe the tiger as is created by its creator. Answer. The tiger is the perfect creation of its creator. Black wonder how God dared to create such a beast. He is struck with surprise and awe to see the majestic elegance and grandeur of the tiger. Its symmetry is fearful, which suggests the awe and grandeur at the immensity of God's power of creation. The tiger is so terrifying and so shapely that it appears to be a miracle. There is a mighty, lustrous fire in its eyes. The poet wonders, seeing the glow in the tiger's eyes, and asks if the creator of the beast soared up to the distant skies or descended to the volcanic depths to obtain the fire needful for the tiger's eyes. He further asks whose hands dared to catch hold of that fire to put it into the eyes of the tiger. The poet is wonder-struck, viewing its paws and claws, when the tiger came to life and began to stride with all the elegance of symmetry, beauty, and strength. The strength of the animal and its wildness are its peculiar features. The tiger, beyond this superficial beauty, is a prototype of God, whose harsher aspect is present in the wildness of the creature. Thank you, friends.